Hey guys, it's Meg and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I'm going to do something slightly different to how I normally edit my videos. Normally I film the video and then I do a voiceover so that I can fast forward a lot of the process if I think it's going to be boring to watch. But a few people have said that they would like to see it in more real time so that you can draw along at the same time. So we're going to give that a go today and just let me know what you think, and if you prefer it this way then of course I can carry on doing them like this. If you want a bit of a mixture, then yeah, just let me know in the comments. So we're going to be carrying on with the school planner that we've been doing the last couple of weeks. This was the cover page, which I think looks really good now that I'm looking back on it. I love the little sticky notes type style, so we're going to be bringing that into today's spread. And then last week we did the timetable, which again, really simple but really effective. All the colours look great, so we're going to be using very similar colours to keep in with the theme. So let's get started. I always start by just pressing down the spine to try and get the book to lie as flat as possible. That is the beauty of these books, is they are flat lay books, which is perfect for bullet journaling. I also like to add some clips to the corners just to keep the pages from flapping when I'm drawing on them. So just clip that there and make sure it's in the center of the camera for you guys, and we should be ready to go. So this week we're going to be creating a standard weekly spread for a school planner. This one will be the last one in the series because I'm going to design this weekly spread so that it can be used any week if you just repeat the process. Hopefully that makes sense. And speaking of process, I also wanted to show you something a little behind the scenes that I don't normally show in my videos. So before I create any spread, I have this little book that's just full of notes and sketches, and I always sketch out an idea of what I'm thinking in my head. I start off with a little one, and then if it's got a bit messy or, you know, I've not had quite enough room, I then do a slightly larger one. So this is the plan for today. It's going to be, like I said, in that sticky notes type style to keep in with the school theme, and it should be very generic so that it works no matter what week it is. So let's get started with the drawing. So first things first is I just start by sectioning up the double page spread into quarters because that is the type of plan that I'm going to be doing today. Hopefully you'll be able to hear me properly because, like I said, this is the first time I'm doing it this way. So hopefully the audio is clear enough and it doesn't get disrupted by all the sounds of the pens and pencils. So what you saw me doing just there was, once I've split it up, I kind of do it by eye now just because I've done it so many times, but I then get my ruler just to check that the spaces are all the same size. So then I just use my pencil and I start plotting out all the basic things I'm going to be including. So for this spread, on the left hand side, I am going to include a plain paper, lined paper style section to look as if it's been cut out of a lined paper notepad, just to use as any bullet point notes. Sketch it out, I see how does that look, and I'm thinking I might want to add an extra little bit of room onto that piece. So it can look quite messy. Obviously normally I would not necessarily include all of this in the video, so this will give you a good insight into how much I do actually change things up as I'm going, and then we rub out the lines at the end. So this is going to end up being lined paper section there, if that makes sense. Sometimes I rub out at the end, sometimes if I think the lines are maybe going to confuse me later on, I'll rub them out as I go. One of the most annoying things when I'm doing a YouTube video is I have to try and keep the book in the same place. But when I rub out and I'm going like this, trying to get all the bits of the rubber off, it often nudges the book, and then the like continuity of the filming doesn't look quite as good. But yeah, so if you notice my book moving around in my videos at all, then you know that's why. So now that we've got this sketched out, these are going to be our days of the week. So I'm just going to quickly write in Monday. Someone also asked me to make my pencil lines a little bit darker so that you can see. Let me just have a look in the camera. I'm hoping you can see, just because I can't really press much harder than I do currently. Because obviously at the end I need to rub them out. So yeah, I can't make it too dark, otherwise you won't get that nice clean look at the end. So of course we're only at school, well, not me, but you know, people in general are only at school Monday to Friday, usually. I don't know how it is everywhere in the world, but for the most part it's Monday to Friday. So I'm adding a section for weekend plans, because I thought that might be a fun section to add. And then in this bottom section, I'm going to create a homework timetable almost, just to keep a track of any homework that's due and whether it's been completed or not. I think I might also have another section up here, maybe just for to-do list type stuff. As an extra place to make any notes that are needed. On these corners I'm just drawing little bits to represent tape, so it looks like it's taped to the page. As you can see, it's a little bit random, because I don't know why, but sometimes I will randomly think of, oh, let me add that in, and then I go and draw that in over there, and then I come back to, like I did just there, adding in the circles, just because as I look around the page I sometimes realise, oh, I forgot to add that bit in, or you know, anything like that. So for the little homework section, I think I'll probably just use this space as it is. They won't be even sections just because it's not necessary, and we want to make sure that each section has the right amount of space. Maybe like that, and then like that at the top. So that's going to be the homework. So you would write in here what the piece of homework actually is. Maybe if you've written it on the day in more detail, you could just write English homework or essay or whatever you need to write as a reminder. Then this could be the due date. So you would write in, for example, English homework due Tuesday the 20th. I don't know if that is actually the date, but, and then this would be whether it's done or not. And then if it is, you give it a tick. Just to help you keep on top of things, should help it stay more organised as well. So next thing to pencil in will be the title. So I think how I'm going to have it, to make sure that it does work for any day, I'm going to make like a little post-it that we've used previously. I tend to make it almost a square rectangular shape, but then I flick up these bottom corners slightly so that it looks a bit more realistic. Obviously it's not intended to look really real, but just makes it look a little bit more lifelike. And then I add a bit of shadow as well. So this will be where you would write the date. I don't need to write date in there. September what was Monday, the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th. There we go. So like that. You could put the year in as well if you wanted. So you would set up this every single week, and it would be the exact same layout, and this would be the only thing that you actually really need to change. Although I will add in the number of the week. So it will say week in capitals there, and then you can just write the number or you can write it as the word. So for example, week 1, write that in there. So the only things that would change would be this. You make it week 2, week 3, whichever week you're on, and fill in the information for that week. So now that I'm happy with that, I'm just going to start going over the top in black pen. I'm going to be using a 0.3 fine liner. For a while I was using a 0.7 pen, just because I don't know why I liked the thicker lines, but actually the 0.7 pen is starting to run out. So I started using the 0.3 and I just really like how it looks. I think it's slightly more subtle, doesn't look quite as almost comic style. I don't know, it just looks a bit more realistic as though it's been printed on, which is definitely the desired look. Want it to look as professional as possible. So yeah, so that's why I'm using the 0.3. I'm also filming in a different location to where I normally film, so hopefully the sun isn't going to be too annoying and create shadows of the phone holder like it is currently. Sun is gone, let's carry on. So I'm going to have, let's do this bit first actually. So here I will not be using a ruler because, like I said, I want it to look a bit more realistic, and if you've ever pinned a post-it note to a notice board or a wall, they're so thin they don't tend to lie flat, so this makes it look a little bit more realistic, but rather than having a really straight square. Now that that is penned in, I can now do the lines to divide up each of the days. I have to sit a little bit further back so I'm not able to look right over the page, so I'm sorry if the lines aren't quite over the dots as they should be, but hopefully it still looks okay. So yeah, I normally would use a ruler in any kind of situation where I'm dividing the page, but if I'm doing smaller doodles then I won't necessarily use the ruler. Kind of depends on what the section is and what effect you're trying to get with that section. So if it's a doodle, then the sketchier, less precise style might look good, whereas obviously drawing a table or something you might want to use a ruler, because if anything, having wobbly lines detracts from the information you're trying to include. So I normally will go with all the basic lines first, and then the details will be done afterwards, so that I know where everything should be. I will then do this, which I'm going to make slightly more than the dot's width. I normally do stick to the dot grid quite exactly just to make sure everything lines up and nothing goes wonky. But when I'm working in this more doodle style, then if it's slightly wonky, it doesn't really matter. So for the tapes, I will not use a ruler for these, because tape, when it's ripped, will not necessarily be completely straight on the edges. So I also vary the pen that I'm using depending on the desired effect that I want for the title. So for example here I'm just using the normal pen I've drawn all the lines with to write to do, and I'll probably use the same pen for the days of the week as well. However, week I might use this pen to outline but make it block letters, something like that, just to make it stand out a little more. So I'm going to go over the days of the week now. I am doing my favourite style of writing, which is like bouncy hand lettering, but you could of course just write the day in standard handwriting. You could write it in capitals, or you could do something more creative, it's totally up to you. Although the only thing I would say is you want to make sure it doesn't take up too much room, that you're then left with not much room to write in for the day on the planner, which is the whole point of the page. So it's a balance between the creative side and the useful, productive side of things. I don't know if you can see, my hand might be in the way, but as I'm writing over the pencil, I'm not necessarily exactly in line with the pencil underneath, just because that's there to give me a guide of how much room I'm going to take up. But of course, when I'm writing it in real time, it won't necessarily fit or whatever. I'm going to put an exclamation mark next to weekend plans because that's the fun part. So homework. I'm writing these in lowercase, which not everyone likes, but I actually really like how lowercase letters look. And I think it adds to that school style that we're going for here, so. It's a bit annoying I've left a slightly larger gap there between the letters, but hopefully that won't be a problem. So now I'm going to work on this lined notepad type section. I'm going to go, oh that's really annoying, the break in my ruler is just at the wrong spot for this, but I am going to draw a red line down the left to act as the margin, and I'll probably draw it across the top as well. And then it will be light blue that I use for the lines. So this is a section that I would normally, when I'm editing, definitely speed up, just because I just kind of think, do people really want to watch me drawing these little lines over and over again? But I guess, yeah, if you are drawing along, then you don't need it to go really fast because you'll be drawing them yourself. And also, I guess it is quite good to show how long it does actually take me to draw all these spreads, because I think a lot of people see them and they think, oh wow, that looks amazing, I could never do that, when really you probably could. You just need to spend an hour or so on it like I do. It's definitely not a quick thing to do, but of course you would only do it if it's something you really enjoy. If you enjoy making them, then it's worthwhile. I wouldn't recommend everyone doing this because, yeah, it takes a long time and not everyone has the time, not everyone wants to spend all this time. But if it's something you really enjoy and it can become a bit of a mindful practice as well, then yeah, I would definitely recommend it. And I think this spread is also quite a good example of how easy it is to do, because really all we've done here is draw a few lines. We've just used a black pen and now 2 colours, and by the end, yeah, we might use a few more, but most people have access to a few coloured pens at least, whether that's at school or at home, and then you just need a pen. Could be a biro, could be anything. Doesn't need to be anything posh or special. So I think I'm going to block in the letters now, just to make them something we can then colour in, to add a bit more colour to the page. But you could just leave them in a simple drawing style, or you could have them as capital letters, whatever you want. You can obviously tweak this to suit you and how you draw, your style. If you think you might need more space in the days of the week, then maybe you wouldn't include these sections and just have them going across the whole page. It's totally up to you. But that is the beauty of it. You can make it suit you and what you want from it. Then just going over in pen again. So you can see there how I had started doing the pen and then I went back to pencil again. So it doesn't even need to be finished, the pencil all finished at one time. You can go backwards and forwards. There's no rules with it. I think a lot of people think, oh, you would draw in pencil first, do that all, and then go over with pen. Whereas sometimes it just works better to add in a few more pencil details after the pen is on, because then you can get a really good idea of how things are going to look when they're all together. So I'm just going to use this same pen to write on the information I'd already put on in pencil. And that is the basic spread already. There'll just be some more colour to go on, but before we do that, I'm going to start rubbing out all of the lines that are underneath. You may or may not be able to see them, but up close you can see all the little marks, so I just like to get rid of those. Again, this is the time when the book potentially could move, so we'll see if it manages to remain in the same space. Also, this is something you could easily draw on plain paper as well. The dots are just useful to keep things lined up, but you could use a ruler to measure it out, or maybe do it on lined paper so you've already got half of the grid. Don't need to have a bullet journal, dot grid journal especially. And if you were thinking that you might want to get one, maybe do it on normal paper or in a lined notepad just to begin with, to try it out, make sure that you actually like it and you're going to carry on with it. And then, yeah, then might be the right time to get a dot grid journal. Or, you know, you could do a few months in normal paper and then, yeah, see, look, I just nudged the book. And then you could maybe ask for Christmas for a journal, for example. These pens that I use are also really good because they don't smudge when you rub out over the top of them, which is really good. Not all pens do that. And they're also good for if you highlight over the top or add colour over the top, they don't smudge either. But the main pens that I use will be linked in the description below. Okay, I'm hoping this isn't going to be too annoying, but I've had to change the lighting because the sun was coming through and just making really annoying shadows, so sorry about that. But let's carry on with the colour. So I'm going to colour in the title letters now. Again, just using the same colour palette that we've used in the initial spreads. Standard bright colours that I don't know about you, that they just make me think of school. So the way I normally colour in is to go around the border and then I just fill in the middle, because once you've got a little border of colour, it tends to make it a little bit easier. And then I always encourage anyone to colour in the same direction if you are colouring in pen, because obviously you do get those streaks that you can see, but if it's all in the same direction, it's a lot less distracting to look at. So the colouring pens that I use are Beryl fine tips, just the kind of standard ones that I had at primary school. I don't know, I'm sure a lot of other people are the same. kind of classic school pens basically. They're fine tip, which means they're really good for slightly more detailed colouring or colouring in a smaller space. But it does mean that it's a little bit more time consuming if you're colouring a fairly big area. My colouring probably isn't as neat as it normally would be, just because when I'm filming I have to sit at an angle that I wouldn't normally draw at. Normally when I'm writing and stuff, I have the book a lot closer to me, and then I often have it angled slightly. But yeah, whilst I'm filming I have to keep it straight, so it makes it a little bit more difficult to make sure everything is in line and stuff. But it doesn't need to be perfect. Okay, so that is the title letters complete. I am then also going to go over the one just with a black fine tip to make it slightly thicker than I can get with the fine liner pens. And just colouring in the little details now. So I'm colouring in the pin. When I'm choosing my colours, I just try and balance the page, if that makes sense. So for example, I've got red here, so I didn't want to have the W be red, whereas the fact it's the K makes it slightly more balanced. Just like I'm going to colour in this post-it note in yellow, so I didn't want to have the letters be yellow. It's just one of those things that as you do it more and more, you don't even really need to think about. Your eye just sort of knows exactly what's where and how much you've used a certain colour and that sort of stuff. So I think it just helps with the overall look, making it look a bit more professional and put together. Because if you do have, for example, if I'd coloured this one in red, your eye would be drawn to it more because it's such a concentration of colour that, I don't know, it's hard to explain. But I think you can know what I mean without knowing that you've necessarily really thought about it. It's just like a natural preference to have colours spread apart and distributed evenly across the pages. So when you're thinking, oh, what colour should I use for the letters? Maybe have a look around the rest of the page. What colours have you used and where? Have you used loads of blue, for example, in which case maybe you don't want to have blue. Equally, it can work in the other way. If you've used only red and black, suddenly then using pink might not work so well because it wouldn't fit with the colour scheme. So it's just a balance, something you get used to, lots of practice, and you'll soon be doing it without even thinking about it. So I've coloured that in. Now I'm just going to re-add the shadow that I'd originally done in pencil, but I rubbed it out when I was rubbing out everything else, so just fill that back in. When you're creating a shadow, you always want to do it on one side that you stick to, so that there's a consistent light source. I also, when I'm doing it, will add it so it doesn't go straight to this corner. It's slightly back a little bit, and same up here, so that it looks a bit more natural. And I also start a little darker as I'm against the edge, and then it gets slightly lighter as it comes further away. You can also then use your finger just to make it look even more subtle. So next thing to colour will be this little bit. I'm thinking of having these in blue because I've got blue, the light blue over here and here, so that evenly balances it across the page. But because it's meant to be washi tape, you could, like we've done on the other pages, maybe put a little pattern on these, or do one colour and one another. I think on the front page we did like a crisscross style, and then another one had hearts on. So if you wanted to carry that on, you could do that. I just felt like this page is quite busy. So that's another thing where you look at the page and sort of take in what's on it. And because this page is quite a busy page, I thought adding extra detail into these sections might just be a bit too much. Also, a little thing I forgot to add. Here we need a title, so I'm just going to put notes. I'm going to put that in normal handwriting, just so it fits in neatly there. And that can be used if you need to jot anything down, just brain dump, or if you need extra space from your to-do list. So I'm also going to add some little bullet point circles. And then perhaps you could just use them as bullet points, or if you want to make it a to-do list check-off type style, you could colour them in once you've completed the task, that sort of thing. I think as well I'm just going to add a bit of colour, really scribbly and scratchy across the to-do list title to make it stand out a little more, and to also add a bit more colour, again balancing the page. So that is pretty much our page complete. I think it looks really good actually. I'm really pleased with how it turned out, considering we started off with this little scribble in my notebook and now we've got this full spread. It should definitely be easily used. It's a very simple structure and hopefully you've been able to follow along and copy it quite easily. Like I said, this was a new way of videoing for me, making it real-time videos, so please let me know in the comments below if you prefer this, if you prefer me doing the voiceover and speeding up the drawing sections or the colouring sections, or if you want a bit of both. Then yeah, just let me know and I'm happy to experiment across the next coming videos and see what ones work best. So I'll just remove these little clips so we can have a look back at everything we've done in this little mini series. So this is our standard planner. Like I said, you use this every week, the same setup, and all you need to change is what week number you're on and then the details for that week. Everything else will remain the same, which means it should be fairly easy to keep producing each week. We also had our little timetable, which again, if you get a new timetable at any other points in the year, you can just create a very similar style. You can even include different doodles if you wanted to. And then we had the front cover, which looks great, and I think now that you see them all together, it really works well as a whole set. So I really hope you've enjoyed this little series. Please give me any feedback in the comments, and if you have enjoyed this, please like, comment and subscribe. It really helps support my channel and means I can keep making videos for you guys. Let me know as well what you want to see. I'm hoping the next video that I create will be a handwriting or titles tutorial, because I've had a lot of comments asking for those. So hopefully that will be coming over the next week, and then we'll be looking at creating a new series. So thanks so much for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one.